Ferrari now. 0345 6060 973. LBC.
I can't wait to see
Ferrari at breakfast on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
9 minutes before 8 is the time. Now, I've promised you through these grim 11 months that we've shared together, 12 months or so, that wherever possible we would concentrate on the positives, and there are some undoubted positives. The United Kingdom, given the size of its population, is a world beater at the level at which it is getting those vaccinations out there. That's thanks to British scientists, the British military, the NHS and the army of volunteers going in. It is a fantastic job. And then the economy. Now, in the words of the Bank of England, so this isn't the Prime Minister, this isn't the Chancellor of the Exchequer, it's not even a Conservative. The economy is like a coiled spring just waiting to be unleashed. These are all positives. So how is that spring to be oiled and make sure it works properly? Well, with a £520 million initiative to support small businesses, the government believes. And here with details is Conservative MP and Business Secretary Kwasi Kwarteng. Good to have you on, Secretary of State, and good to see you again, indeed, in video. Tell me how this money will work and who gets it and how they get their hands on it. Good morning.
Hello, Nick. Very good to see you this morning. What I would say is that the Chancellor's always been very focused for years now, even before he was Chancellor, on productivity. How do we boost productivity so that we can get growth going? And I think he's quite rightly identified that we could really up the skills, increase the skills of people who are running small businesses, medium-sized businesses. And the whole idea behind this Help to Grow policy is to provide digital training, management training to business owners who can really improve their skills, because in many instances, people don't have the time. They want to keep their heads above water. They want to keep their businesses afloat, and they don't have the time really, all the means to improve their skill levels. And I think the Chancellor has really, I think rightly, focused on this area, and he's got an exciting scheme. I think it's £525 million that we put in to the scheme so that we can really increase the training and skills of our great entrepreneurs who set up small businesses.
Can you give my listeners an example, Mr. Kwarteng? What sort of training are we talking about in what sort of trades or industries as an example?
Well, if you look at a small retail business, they will have to keep accounts. And in many instances, those accounts will be kept in quite an old-fashioned way. So there'll be people writing, even in some instances, in ledger books to keep accounts. If you get modern software that's looking after your accounts, that actually saves a huge amount of time, and it allows the business owner to focus on other things. That's just a small example how using digital technology, using the latest accounting software, you can actually spend more time in terms of managing your business and driving growth in the business. So little things like that, which actually I think in the long run can really benefit small business owners, employees as well, and the British economy more generally.
You won't be surprised to hear that a lot of small businessmen, owners, businessmen and businesswomen listen to the show. How do they get more details? Is it on a government website?
I think there'll be an announcement tomorrow. I think it's a really exciting development. I think there'll be other management training type courses. Another example that I can give you is people, an entrepreneur can have a great idea, he or she can have a great idea for a business, but they won't necessarily be used to managing people. As the business grows, I'll have to recruit more people. And that requires perhaps a slightly different skill set. And what the Chancellor's offering is the chance to train people and to make sure that they get those management skills, which are really important.
You've referenced the budget a couple of times, Mr. Kwarteng. One of your Conservative colleagues, Mel Stride, was on this show yesterday, and he said he felt it was almost inevitable that some tax rises would occur, pointing to things possibly such as corporation tax. What are your views, Secretary of State?
My view is that the critical thing for us to do at the moment, and I speak to businesses, as you can imagine, all the time, is to support the economy, and that's what we've been doing. The Chancellor has put in something like £285 billion into this economy, which is unprecedented. And I think that the time really to focus on support is now. We're still in lockdown. The Prime Minister set out a very clear roadmap, but we're still in the lockdown, and the pandemic is still with us, unfortunately. So I'm looking to continue that support. I've made those representations from the conversations I've had with the Chancellor, and I think it'll be a very supportive budget. I think furlough is very likely to be extended. I think other means of support will be as well.
Yeah, my question focused on tax rises, though. Do you imagine there'll be tax rises, and would you support that?
Obviously, we have to balance the books over time, but I am a low tax Conservative. And the real key, Nick, is to grow the economy. I think the best remedy for the deficit, the best remedy for the economy is to open up the economy, allow people to get on with their lives, allow businesses to start trading again. The vaccine rollout has worked very successfully, as you pointed out. And I think if we stick to the roadmap, there's every chance that the second half of this year we'll see the economy grow. And through that growth, I think we'll be able to tackle the deficit.
Before I had the pleasure of welcoming you to the show, Secretary of State, we talked about this Whitehall report that shows possibly around £52 billion a year is being lost to fraud where people are criminally exploiting the furlough scheme and various other measures. We hear now of more expenditure, 520 to help SMEs. Are we going to hear of a crackdown tomorrow on those who've stolen our money, Secretary of State?
Absolutely right. I mean, you couldn't put it more vividly and more accurately. People who are committing fraud are stealing taxpayers' money, and for every pound that they steal, that's a pound less to actually supporting legitimate businesses. So it's something we take extremely seriously. My understanding is that there were a number of arrests made only last week in this thing, and we can't be hard enough, I think, on people who commit fraud and abuse the generosity of the taxpayer. Ultimately, it's the taxpayer who's paying for all of this.
Lastly, you mentioned, of course, business and wanting to get businesses going. And to remind everybody, you are Business Secretary. One of the businesses that suffered the most, of course, is tourism and the British aviation industry. You'll be aware that leaders in Brussels, European leaders in Brussels, later this month will be talking about a sort of digital green pass or digital green code that will allow people to travel again into Europe. How important might that be?
I think, as you say, aviation is really important, and it's one of the sectors that's under huge amounts of pressure. Before I became business secretary, I've been MP for Spelthorne for 11 years nearly. And so Spelthorne being very close to Heathrow, I'm very, very conscious of the fact that aviation workers, people who work in the sector, are really struggling. So I think it's really important that we get travelling again. I think any schemes, any ideas that can promote that safely are good ideas. But obviously we have to do this safely, and we have to deal with this pandemic.
Will you have a summer holiday this year, Mr. Kwarteng?
I haven't booked one yet, Nick. I'm only 2 months into the job. And as you know, I've got my feet under the desk, and I haven't given a minute's thought to what I'm doing in this summer. I've got to speak to lots and lots of business owners and really trying to get to grips with dealing with this pandemic.
Grateful for your time. Thank you for appearing on the show. Conservative MP and Business Secretary Kwasi Kwarteng appearing here on LBC. Thank you for that. Coming up after the news, we will return to that conversation about the idea of those EU passports, or this so-called green card. Is this the way? The meeting later this month in Brussels to kickstart tourism by the end of June. We'll give you full details on that. Also, the idea that staff at a particular steakhouse are being told they have to loan their employers, their bosses, part of their wages, or they'll face the sack. We'll give you more details on that. We'll keep our eyes on this so-called Brazilian strain or Brazilian variant. More details on that. And also, Theo Usherwood reports, as we get ready for our children to go back to their schools.
It's back to school on Monday, but how far should head teachers go to make their schools COVID secure? I'm LBC's Theo Usherwood.
More on that story and more besides after the 8 o'clock news on LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 8 o'clock, the Treasury's announced tomorrow's budget will include more funding for the cultural sector as it emerges from the pandemic. An additional